Hello, my name is Colleen Berry, and I am professor and the chair of the Department of Health Policy and Management at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. And today I'm going to be talking about public opinion and support for gun policy. This presentation is based on a series of 4 national public opinion surveys that our research team at Johns Hopkins conducted to try to understand support for policies aimed at reducing gun violence. These studies were conducted at the same time over an 8-year period, that is the first 2 weeks in January, in 2013, 15, 17, and 19. They were conducted with large nationally representative online panels to allow us to understand, using national estimates, opinion among the American public, and we used standard battery of questions in all of our surveys. The web-based survey panels that we used to do this research were designed to be representative of the U.S. adult population, and panelists that we included in the survey were over 18 years of age, and all of these surveys had quite high completion rates. Estimates included, across all 4 surveys, a total of over 8,000 individuals, including 3,000 gun owners, because we oversampled gun owners. For many of the policies that we looked at, and universal background check policy is a good example of this, we see very high levels of public support and really almost no differences among gun owners and non-gun owners. This is also true for a policy like firearm prohibitions for domestic violence offenders. Again, quite high public support levels and very small differences across gun owners and non-gun owners. Some of the newer policies that have been considered in states are the so-called extreme risk protection orders, also known as gun violence restraining orders or red flag orders. There are actually 2 types of policies underlying this group of red flag laws. One would authorize law enforcement officials to temporarily remove guns from individuals who the officer determines poses an immediate threat of harm to self or others. Here you can see support both among gun owners and non-gun owners. It is quite high, well above 60% for both, but much higher among non-gun owners. The other red flag policy is one that would allow family members to ask the court to temporarily remove guns from a relative who they believe is at risk of harm to himself or others. And here again, you see quite high levels of support overall, although slightly lower among gun owners compared to non-gun owners. A somewhat bigger gap in support, although well over the majority of both gun owners and non-gun owners, support a policy that would require a person to obtain a license from a local law enforcement agency before buying a gun to verify identity and to ensure that they're not legally prohibited from having a gun. And then we looked at a series of policies related to gun dealer accountability. This policy would require a mandatory minimum sentence of 2 years in prison for a person convicted of knowingly selling a gun to someone who cannot legally have a gun. Here, well above majority support, both among gun owners and non-gun owners. And one thing that you can observe across the 4 survey waves for all the policies that I've been discussing is pretty consistent levels of support over time, which is quite interesting. There's been a lot of change in the public dialogue around gun policy in the U.S., yet our findings, as you'll observe, and you've observed already, are quite consistent over time for the most part. Here is a different gun dealer accountability policy that would allow cities to sue licensed gun dealers when there is strong evidence that a gun dealer's sales practices allow criminals to obtain guns. Again, well over majority support. As well as this policy that would allow the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to temporarily take away a gun dealer's license if audits reveal record-keeping violations and the dealer can't account for 20 or more of his guns. Here, quite large majorities supporting and almost no difference between gun owners and non-gun owners. Finally, the last gun dealer accountability policy that I would mention that we surveyed on was allowing enforcement about which gun dealers sell the most guns used in crimes to be available to police and the public so that those gun dealers can be prioritized for oversight. Here we do see overall majority support, but a larger gap between gun owners and non-gun owners. Within the past couple of years, we've been asking more policies related to concealed carry. Here you can see very high levels of public support, again, among both gun owners and non-gun owners in our 2017 survey wave, as well as our 2019 survey wave for a policy related to requiring a person who can legally carry a concealed gun to pass a test demonstrating that they can safely and lawfully handle a gun in common situations that they might encounter. We do see, though, and this was a surprise when our 2019 data came back, a sizable dip in support for this policy among gun owners, still well above majority, but lower than 2 years ago, whereas we see very little change overall and among non-gun owners. Big differences by gun ownership status on a policy requiring a state to recognize a concealed carry permit from another state, even if that other state's firearm concealed carry permit standards are lower. And very low levels of support across all groups, far below majority support even among gun owners for a policy allowing a person who can legally own a gun to carry a loaded concealed handgun in public without having obtained a concealed carry license. There are a number of policies that I'm going to talk about now where we see quite sizable gaps between gun owners and non-gun owners. And for this reason, these policies, from a political perspective, become much more challenging in terms of the feasibility of enacting them. And this is a good example of one of those policies. This policy would require by law that a person lock up the guns in their home when not in use to prevent handling by children or teenagers without adult supervision. Here you see a big gap between gun owners and non-gun owners in these so-called safe storage laws. Although if you notice the gun owner line, you can see that it is trending upward at a higher rate in terms of support than the population overall, which is quite interesting. One policy where it's, I think, pretty well understood in our society that there's a significant gap in support between gun owners and non-gun owners is the assault weapons restriction policy that would ban the sale of military-style semi-automatic assault weapons that are capable of shooting more than 10 rounds of ammunition without reloading. Here, below majority support consistently over time among gun owners, whereas consistently and fairly stable high majority support among non-gun owners. Similarly, you see a gap and decreasing support over time for a policy that would ban the sale of large capacity ammunition clips. We have conducted for the last couple of years a series of questions related to guns in schools in both 2017 and 2019. We looked at support for allowing a person who can legally carry a concealed gun to bring that gun onto school grounds for schools kindergarten through 12th grade. Here we see below majority support among both gun owners and non-gun owners for this policy, but quite a gap in levels of support. For example, in 2019, 47% of gun owners supported this policy, whereas only 25% of non-gun owners did. In 2019, we asked about a policy allowing a person who can legally carry a concealed gun to bring that gun onto a college or university campus. Here, again, you see a very sizable gap between attitudes of gun owners and non-gun owners. Gun owners, 55% of which support this kind of concealed carry on college or university campuses compared to only 29% of non-gun owners. Finally, we asked about a policy prohibiting a person under the age of 21 from having a handgun. Here, pretty sizable gap, although a tick up in support just between 2017 and 2019 among gun owners, where you see the policy move more solidly into majority support among gun owners. And in 2019, we asked about age restrictions in the context of semi-automatic rifles. This policy involves a rifle that ejects and rechambers a new round after each shot, allowing a person to fire that rifle as quickly as the trigger can be pulled. And we asked whether the survey respondents supported or opposed requiring an owner of this kind of rifle to be at least 21 years of age. And here we find majorities of support overall. 61% of gun owners and 77% of non-gun owners supported this age restriction policy. Let me take a minute to summarize these results. Again, we've had the opportunity to look at a wide range of different types of policies aimed at reducing gun deaths. And we've looked at those policies, many of them over quite a long period of time, with methods that allow us to make statements about public support at the national level, looking separately at gun owners and non-gun owners, as well as overall support. And what we find is fairly stable public attitudes about policies to reduce gun violence over this 8-year time period. Many policies have very high levels of support among gun owners and non-gun owners alike. And these are the policies where we would consider the highest level of feasibility in terms of pushing through gun laws that could reduce gun violence and gun deaths. The policies where the majority of the public, whether you own a gun or not, find agreement. Some policies, on the other hand, do have quite sizable gaps in support between gun owners and non-gun owners, and those gaps in support signal political feasibility issues in terms of being able to meaningfully enact them. But the bottom line from this research is that for policymakers interested in advancing policies to reduce gun violence, they have many options to choose from where there is strong overall public support, and that support is fairly consistent whether a person owns a gun or not.